What's up, guys? Welcome to the 8 Count, a series powered by Atlanta Boxing Social Club. I'm your girl, Jasmine K, delivering weekly boxing updates. This week, we're going to get into the recap of Midley versus Murdoch, as well as Beterbiev versus Smith, and switch gears a little bit. We're going to get into the saga that continues between Golden Boy and Ryan Garcia, as well as talking about His Excellency Turki Al-Sheikh. I hope I said that right. But we're going to get into how he's changing the game of boxing. He's really forcing these promoters to put on the biggest fights that we could possibly see, not only in the heavyweight division, but now in the super lightweight division, as he's calling for Haney to have his debut in Saudi Arabia. Without further ado, let's get into this 8 count.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
As I said, this is the 8 Count, a series where I deliver 8 counts of weekly boxing updates. So let's get into it right away with count number 1. Midley versus Murdoch recap for the WBC Super Middleweight Continental Americas title. Midley had a dominating performance against Murdoch, of which afterwards he wasted no time in calling out Canelo as his next opponent, saying that he feels that he's deserved that shot from Canelo and he wants to continue to prove himself that he's ready to fight the best within the division. And we all know that Canelo is the king of the super middleweight division, so he has his eyes locked and centered on that matchup. But he has said in the event that he does not get that, he's willing to continue to take who's ever in front of him. Listen, I loved everything I saw that Midley display versus Murdoch last Saturday night. I think that he has the style to put him in matchups like Canelo. But one of the things that I did notice with him was his tendency to drop his hands when sitting on those power shots. I think against a guy like Canelo, who's much more smarter, much more experienced, and I think has more lethal power, those are the type of mistakes that he will make you pay with time throughout the fight. So if there's one thing that I had to critique, it simply was just him not bringing his hands back quick enough after he sat down on those punches. Another thing within that same breath is the fact that sometimes I feel like he overthrew himself and put himself out of position, really trying to land that power shot against Murdoch and similar opponents. Again, I think against a much tougher and smarter opponent such as Canelo, and as he goes up in the super middleweight division, when he sees the guys of Charlos and Plants and so on, these are the things that they're going to be able to capitalize on, and you're not going to have a lot of room to make those mistakes. So what I want to see going forward is him just simply bringing his hands back. I think that that's a simple fix, and if that's the only critique that I have and others have, he's doing his job, and so is his trainer. So other than that, I think Midley has a very promising career, and I think it's only a matter of time before he's getting the Canelos and the tops of the super middleweight division that he's calling out. Until then, I think as long as he continues to be in fights that pushes him closer towards mandatories, I think he's right where he's supposed to be. I look forward to the rest of the fights that he'll be in this year and to see him climb the ladder. Count number 2. In addition to a great co-main event, our main event did not disappoint as we had the unification light heavyweight title fight between Beterbiev versus Callum Smith, as Beterbiev was defending his WBC, WBO, and IBF titles. Coming into this fight, my only advantage given was for Smith to take advantage and capitalize on the tendencies that Beterbiev has of resetting constantly throughout a fight. I wanted to see him force Beterbiev to fight off that back foot stepping backwards, but Beterbiev came in somewhat of an unordinary fashion of bringing the fight to Smith from the first bell. We saw a Beterbiev who did not sit back and wait to collect data within the first 2 rounds, but he stepped on the gas from the bell, bringing the fight to Smith, pressuring him, landing beautiful shots in the inside of what looked like some pin-accurate head-hunting shots that sent Smith back to the corner, needing to come out in the second round with adjustments made. However, coming back into the second round, it was still all Beterbiev. Although I felt like he settled down a little bit and paced himself out, he was very establishing with that jab and creating the distance. And I feel like going into the third round, he had Smith completely figured out. I feel like where Smith had the best success was when he let his hands go, of which I thought the 6th round was the best round that he had all night long. But the power just proved itself to be too much versus Smith, as going into the 7th round, we saw 2 knockdowns, of which Better Beef simply timed the left jab of Smith with the right hook that hurt him and sent Buddy McGirt flying into the ring to stop this fight with 2 minutes within the 7th round for Better Beef to be the victor by TKO. After watching this, I still give Bivol the advantage, but not by much. As I did pre the fight with Smith, I think if Bivol can take from Canelo and attacking the arms of Better Beef, he'll do 2 things. Stay active offensively with his punch output and do some damage to make him drop his arms, because Better Beef defensively resorts to the high guard or just stepping back from what we saw in that Smith fight. And I think that that is where Bivol is really good of being able to punch through that high guard and being able to punch around that high guard. And if I had to judge, I would say that his power is much different than the power of Smith. And I think, again, that's where I give the edge just by a little bit to Bivol, based on the mistakes that I saw in the Better Beef versus Smith fight of simply just reverting to no defense at all. So anyways, it's only a matter of time before that fight date is announced, and we are getting a undisputed light heavyweight title between Better Beef versus Bivol in Saudi Arabia. Count number 3, Golden Boy versus Ryan Garcia, as the saga continues. As we await not only the fight date announcement, but also the opponent announcement, the saga continues on who's fighting who. Originally demanded his team to line up Devin Haney to switching his opponents to Rolly post-spotting of Ryan with Floyd, to now Golden Boy announcing that a deal is near and done with him potentially fighting Ramirez. In my opinion, Ramirez is a much more dangerous opponent opposed to Devin Haney, of which I think that the styles is simply what makes this fight a lot more dangerous for Ryan Garcia, with Ramirez being a pressure fighter who's going to sit in your face all night long, throwing shots, trading power with power. As we've already seen, Ryan doesn't do the best against a pressure fighter, and that became apparent when he took on the fight against Oscar Duarte, of which in that performance, the shoulder roll came up. The shoulder roll is just not going to be enough against a guy like Ramirez, who is seasoned, who's experienced, who's been in multiple title fights. At this point, I think that this is a bad look. It doesn't push Ryan Garcia in any needle of a way. He doesn't bring the biggest payday when you consider Rolly versus Devin in this scenario. He also does not bring forward a easy matchup, as I feel Rolly is the guy that is the easier of the 3. So what are we doing here? Why is Ramirez even in this position to fight Haney? I'm assuming that Ramirez was promised a potential fight with Ryan if he signed to Golden Boy, and maybe that's why we're seeing this. Ryan, furthermore, has gone on record to say that no, he does not want Ramirez, and at this point, it's Oscar De La Hoya versus Ryan Garcia. Well, again, I think that this is just a lose-lose situation for Ryan Garcia and a win-win situation if the Ramirez fight is to happen for not only Ramirez, but for Golden Boy, as they will continue out the contract with Jose Ramirez, pushing him further up the chain. He gets this win, in my opinion, versus Ryan, and just puts him in a more better leveraged position to fight the bigger guys in the 140-pound division and get the bigger fights. Count number 4. Rumors floating around that Canelo Alvarez's next fight in May is going to be against Jermall Charlo. I'll believe it when I see it, but I do feel Jermall Charlo would put up a better fight against Canelo than the one that his twin brother, Jermall Charlo, put up last year. Simply given the fact of the chip that's on his shoulder of feeling like this was his fight all along from the beginning. So yes, does he make it a more challenging fight? Yes. But does he win this fight? No. But I 100% can't say that I don't want to see this fight. But if this is what we get, so be it. I'm hoping that it's just speculation and we're actually going to get the fight of Canelo versus Benavidez. But we'll have to see what happens as things continue to unfold in the super middleweight division. Count number 5. Anthony Joshua versus Francis Ngannou was solidified with the kickoff of the press conference held in Saudi Arabia this week. This time we're getting the same mild, quiet AJ, similar to what we got in the lead up to the Joshua Parker fight. Anthony Joshua finds himself in yet another big fight with the even bigger contingency of the winner of the Anthony Joshua versus Francis Ngannou gets the winner of Fury versus Usyk in a unification undisputed heavyweight title matchup. That's a lot riding on the line. All of these guys have been trying to get to that point, but we've had upsets, we've had deviations and derails of pathways that has led us to this point, but we are finally getting it, and it is through His Excellency that we will see this happen. I think it goes without saying, given the performance that Ngannou had versus Fury, that you cannot count Ngannou out of this fight. Ngannou has already challenged the chin of Anthony Joshua, stating that he hears that he has a very weak chin and he's going to find out. Threats aside, I think that this is a big fight. A lot of people feel as though, why? Anthony Joshua doesn't need this fight at this particular point in his career, but why not? Now, I would be on the side of the fans of why at this point, because it is a risk and AJ is so close to getting that undisputed heavyweight title shot against what a lot of us is hoping is going to be Fury, that I think that it's going to be Usyk, and we've already seen Usyk versus AJ, but let's not foreshadow too much, as Usyk has to get past Fury and vice versa. But why not stay active and make the most money possible while we wait those results? We'll see what happens between these two. First seeing the fight next month with Fury and Usyk, and then getting the fight with AJ and Ngannou. I love it. This is what boxing is about, making the biggest fights possible, whether that's for titles or that's just the biggest fights that are possible. So let's see what happens. Count number 6. In all of the talks of what's happening in Saudi Arabia and with His Excellency, that brings me to count number 6. His Excellency Turki Al-Shah. I think I'm saying that right. I hope I'm saying that right, but if not, please forgive me. His Excellency has not only moved into the spotlight of boxing, but he's making the biggest fights happen in boxing, as we have already seen what he's been able to display with the heavyweight division and delivering 2 mega cards last year, and now giving us another mega card that is Fury versus Usyk fight, and now the Anthony Joshua versus Ngannou fight. And now he's brought an even bigger challenge and a bigger opportunity to boxing, as both Eddie Hearn and Frank Warren put ink to the paper for us to see this 5 versus 5. That is Hearn's best 5 versus Warren's best 5, and yet another massive fight card in Saudi Arabia. In addition to that, he is also calling for Devin Haney to fight in Saudi Arabia. We all saw it coming. I know me specifically has said that this was in the works, from which you can see in the background of all the trips that Devin Haney has been seen in Saudi Arabia, spotted with His Excellency and building that connection. And now we see that he wants Devin Haney in Saudi Arabia. Not only does he want one of the best in the super light division to fight there, he wants to see him versus the money machine, the new face of boxing, so he claims, Tank. At the end of the day, we already know that money talks for Tank, and Devin Haney, so-called, really wants Tank next. So maybe we finally get it ahead of the scheduled time of what everybody is projecting for that matchup to happen in 2025, but we get it in 2024. I'm all for it, and His Excellency has proven that he is a power player in this game. Obviously, they have more than enough financial currency to make the biggest matchups in boxing happen. So y'all let us know who it is that you guys want to see. Count number 7. In other news, Alicia Baumgartner has taken to the ground to share with us the weight that she's currently walking around at. Now, that can only mean so many things. I think she's making slight at the fact that she is ready to fight Clarissa Shields at 147. You would have to imagine, though, Clarissa Shields has to be walking around at more than 160, 170, if not more, because she's been comfortably fighting at 160 for the last 3 fights and 154 for some time now. As much as I really want to see this fight between Baumgartner and Shields, I just don't see it happening. I think that actually it will be pretty insane for Carissa Shield to go down to 147 to take on Alicia Baumgartner. And I think it's equally insane for Alicia, who's been fighting comfortably at 130, to then move up to 147, skipping multiple weight classes to take on a much bigger opponent. Honestly speaking, it doesn't make any sense. The weight between these two is too significant to get past, in my opinion. I would love to see the fight just for the simple fact that these are two greats within their divisions, but I think with all respect to what they've been able to accomplish to this point, let's just keep it there. We'll see though. We can still get this fight at a catch weight, something that's more comfortable for both fighters and that puts both fighters in the best advantage as possible. But again, I just see the weight being too much despite how much they want to hype this fight up. Moving on to count number 8. Let's talk about the realistic fights that are actually happening and that we're getting this weekend. This weekend should be a great week of boxing. Top-ranked female welterweight championship between Natasha Jonas and Michaela Mayer. Then we have Golden Boy Munguia versus Ryder in a WBC silver super middleweight clash. All exciting fights, like I said. Until next time, this is the 8 count with your girl Jasmine K.
I'll be the best